The man of 1,000 voices, the one and only Rich Little, is coming up right now. The Jim Masters Show. Great to have you with us. Thanks for joining us, everybody. And welcome the one and only, the legendary master impressionist, comedian extraordinaire, voice artist, author, the one and only Rich Little, coming to us from Las Vegas. Rich, a pleasure to have you here, my friend. Now, you're starting a new show that's coming up in a couple of days, right?
That's right, at the Horseshoe on the Strip. And I'm going to be there Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday at 6:30. And this is my show, my comeback show, because I've been retired. And then they gave me a good offer, and I couldn't refuse it. So I'm back.
You know, I don't think you've ever left us. You've always been in the hearts and minds of all of us all these years, Rich. That appearance early on the Judy Garland show on CBS really sort of kicked a few things off as far as being seen on television in America nationally. What was that like, that opportunity? You auditioned to be on it, got that role, and everything from there, just magic.
Well, Mel Tormé, the singer, was a great friend of mine, and he was responsible for getting me on the Judy Garland show. And at first, Judy didn't want me. She said to Mel, "I don't like impersonators. They make me fart." That's what she said to Mel. Do you believe that? And Mel said, "Well, just hear one impression that he does, and then you can decide." And I did my impression of James Mason, and that was the voice that got me on the Garland show. She loved James Mason.
Oh my God, that's incredible. And did she ever whisper whether or not she did have that party reaction?
Well, you know, after I did the Garland show, I ran into James Mason, and I thanked him for getting me on the Garland show. And he said, "I don't know what you're talking about." And I said, "Well, I do an impression of you." And Judy liked it so much that she booked me on her show. And then he said to me, "How much did you get for doing the Garland show?" I said, let me think, $1,400. "Good. Send half of it to me."
I love that.
I never did.
Yeah. What inspired you early on to want to go into the arts, into entertaining, into this world of, impressions and comedy and so much more? Was there anybody in the family that had any of those characteristics that sort of opened the doors for you early on, or were you the breakout kid in the household, Rich?
Yeah, nobody in my family was in show business. And I think it happened because of my love of movies. And I'm a big movie buff. And that's how I became a friend of Mel Tormé, because Mel was an authority on movies. Nobody knew more about movies than Mel. And that's how we connected. And then I did a show with him in Canada. And that's when he said, "I'm going to book you on the Garland show." And he did.
And wasn't it recently or coming up, Mel Tormé would have been 100, which is hard to believe. You've worked with so many people who are no longer with us. We just lost, I think, one of the last, Ruth Buzzy, of course, who we just lost not that long ago. But there's
Yeah.
so many people you worked with over the years.
Yeah, that's true. I've got a picture on my wall of let's see, I think it was the Frank Sinatra roast. And everybody after the show posed for a picture. And I looked at that picture yesterday, and everybody is gone in that picture except me. Amazing.
I know this goes back a ways, but do you recall the very first impression that you did, whether it was in public or just playing around, one that you mimicked early, that you just really enjoyed doing?
What voice?
Was there a particular voice that
Oh,
was yeah, was there do you recall, like, the first person that you did an impression on?
well, other than my teachers, I used to imitate them, and I graduated early. But, the first movie star that I ever impersonated was Jimmy Stewart.
Mm, yes,
Yeah,
yeah,
I remember
yeah.
I came home from skating because I'm a Canadian and
Yes, you
missed
are.
skating every week. And I came home from skating and I sat down at the dinner table and I asked my mom for a piece of apple pie, and that's how I started doing Jimmy Stewart from eating pie. It's interesting. His horse's name was Pie.
That's
You know,
right.
and he rode Pie in I think every western he did. And then Henry Fonda painted a picture of Pie, and Jimmy treasured that. And when I visited him at his home, there was the picture on the wall.
There was the picture on the wall. Well, those Dean Martin roasts, which you were a part of for such a long time, so extraordinary. And now people can see them, online and on DVDs. And there's a whole new generation that are rediscovering folks like you and all the other incredible acts that were on there. The times with Jimmy Stewart, of course, which we see here, were absolutely fantastic. What was it like being a part of that laugh fest and that frivolity on the Dean Martin roast? Again, you appeared on that incredible amounts of times, and every single time knocked it out of the park. Just got everybody, Dean falling out of the chair, Phyllis Diller. I mean,
Yeah,
extraordinary. What was that
Dean
like?
Dean Dean had a great laugh. You could bust Dean up, and he he was hard to get to know though because Dean kept to himself. He wasn't very talkative. If you before you did a roast, if you got two words out of him, you were doing well. And one time we were walking to the dais to start a roast, and Dean said, "Rich, who are we honoring tonight?" And I said to myself, he doesn't know who we're honoring and we're going to do the show in 5 minutes. But he said, nobody told me. And I said, well, we're doing Michael Landon. Oh, well, that's a good choice. Yeah, we're going to have some great fun. In other words, he was going to start a roast and didn't know who the roastee was.
Was it because of what was in the glass that I heard he spilled a lot?
Yeah, that's the old joke, right?
Yeah.
He didn't drink that much. He spilled most of it. But I remember one time after a roast, and I was leaving the dais, and I picked up Dean's glass, and it did have booze in it.
Yeah, it did. Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. There's so many incredible stories that we share and that you share. We'll talk about this amazing book that you've written as well. But there was one where you and President Ronald Reagan, you had a wonderful friendship with President Reagan and Nancy
Right.
Reagan for many years. You were told to take a hike, in so many words, by Betty Davis during the inauguration.
Oh yeah. That's a funny story. Yeah, I was talking to Betty Davis, and she didn't know who I was, and then she thought she was talking to Reagan, and of course it was me, and I don't think she appreciated that at all. That didn't go over too well, and I was so glad I never ran into her, because she thought she was talking to Reagan, and she was talking to me, and then when she found out it was me, she got really upset. So I'm glad I never ran into her. Every time I was invited to do something, a charity event or anything, I said, well, is Betty Davis going to be there? And yeah, she's coming. Oh, well, I'm busy that night.
After that,
Petite,
right?
Rich Little, you're a fraud. You're not Ronald Reagan.
Because you were on the phone, right? Weren't you on the phone talking to
Yeah.
her, and she thought the whole time that you were him?
One time Reagan said, Rich, I think you do me better than I do. And when I pass away, I'm, I think they should bury you.
He had a great wit about him, certainly did.
Great,
Yeah.
great personality, loved humor. Every time you saw Reagan, you had to have something funny to say to him, a joke or anything, because he loved humor. And he was a very nice man. You could talk to him and you never felt you were talking to the president. He was just a likable guy, and I got along great with him, but he always used to do an impression of me doing him.
Which is incredible, really. You spent so much time, as I mentioned, on the Dean Martin roasts as well, but also quite a bit of time on the fabulous Rowan and Martin's
Oh, God,
Laugh-In.
where did you get that picture?
Oh, I tell you, huh? There you are. Yeah, and
Oh,
you look the same, my friend. You look the
oh,
same.
not really. That
What
looks
was
like
it like being a part of that wacky crew on Laugh-In and all of those amazing laughs and comedy, and just here you are doing Nixon?
yeah, I did a lot of Nixon on those days.
You were fantastic. You just nailed it like you do with everything. But you absolutely had him down so perfectly. Um, but the time and the years on Laugh-In, tell us about that.
Well, Laugh-In was a very popular show because it was fast, and then they had a lot of humor, and it was short. The jokes weren't long, so it was very funny, and it just kept coming at you. And I did it two or three times, and it was a lot of fun because the cast, the Goldie Hawn and Judy Garland, who I worked with earlier in a situation comedy, and gosh, Ruth Buzzy, she was wonderful. Poor Ruth, she kept hitting Frank and Dean with her purse, and
Over the
if
head,
you,
right?
and if you ever see that, which you can see many times because she always ended up hitting Dean and Frank with her purse. All they were worried about was ruining their hair. They were covering their hair, and that's all they cared about.
Yeah, the
They
hair
didn't
was
care if they got hit in the face. They were just protecting their hair.
right. There was such a great character that she created. When you did President Richard Nixon and so incredibly well, what was his response, his take on you doing him?
Um, well, somebody told me I was on a plane with somebody and who was a friend of Nixon's, and he said that he liked my impression of him, and I found that hard to believe. But he said no, he's a big fan of yours, and whenever you're on TV, he's watching, and that really surprised me. And from then on, when I did Nixon, I was very self-conscious because I knew he was watching, you know. But he was larger than life. Nixon was. He was very funny. I remember one time I was in a Mexican restaurant, and Nixon was in the restaurant too, sitting in the next booth. And all of a sudden, he stood up in the restaurant and he tapped the glass, said, "Could I have your attention, please?" And of course, everybody looked up, and Nixon said, "Bob," and Bob was the owner of the restaurant, "would you stand up, please?" And Bob stood up, and Nixon said, "I just want to congratulate you on having a wonderful beefy taco." Wonderful. Thank you. That's all.
That's
A beef taco.
a beefy taco. That's what.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Right, exactly. Roasting so many people on the Dean Martin roast, Frank Sinatra, Lucille Ball, Kirk Douglas, Johnny Carson, Truman Capote, who you nailed perfectly, Jack Benny, you did a brilliant Jack Benny, and Jack really one of the nicest guys in the business, wasn't he?
Absolutely. Jack Benny was a sweetheart. There was nobody nicer than Jack Benny. He had no ego or very little ego, and you could talk to him about anything. He loved comedy, and I would put him right up there with Jimmy Stewart and John Wayne as three of my favorites.
You mentioned John Wayne. Now, when you were coming to America, did people that were doing the screening or what have you, maybe the judge, ask you to do your John Wayne impression?
Well, yeah, when I was sworn in as an American, I'm half American, half Canadian. I don't know which half, but anyway, I was sworn in by a judge who was a big fan of John Wayne's. And so he swore me in as an American citizen as John Wayne. And I did John Wayne. And then everybody applauded. And it went over so great that later on I thought, wait a minute, did I become an American or did John Wayne? Wait a minute, John Wayne's already an American. But but it was a great moment to be sworn in as John Wayne. I'd
Wonderful.
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States, Pilgrim.
Wonderful friendship with the late great Don Rickles too, right? He was something else.
If you weren't insulted by Don, you just didn't make it. You hadn't made it in show business. He was so funny. The thing about Don Rickles was most comedians, when somebody says something funny, they want to come back with a line and maybe it's funny or whatever. But Don Rickles was like two thoughts ahead of you. He not only knew what he was going to say if you said something funny, he knew he was going to say something funny twice. And he could think so far ahead. It was unbelievable. No pause at all. Just like that. Amazing guy. And Robert Williams was the same.
Yeah.
So fast.
Yeah.
No time to think. Just boom, out
bang,
with it.
zoom, bang, zoom. Exactly right. You got a chance over the years to have some wonderful friendships with, but also do extraordinary impressions with so many of the presidents over the years.
Yeah.
You got Reagan and
Love that
Carter.
shot of Reagan laughing.
Yes.
That's a classic.
Isn't that a great one? And there's Nixon, of course.
He was busting up. I don't know what I was doing. And that shot of me and Jimmy Carter, it was his birthday. And I was wishing him happy birthday as Marilyn Monroe. Happy birthday to you. And he got a big kick out of that. Oh, my God.
And look at these shots, too. There's Judy and there's Jimmy and, of course, Lucille Ball.
Yeah. And there's Jimmy and John Wayne and myself.
Yeah.
And that's a great picture. I love that picture.
These are really incredible. So many moments, too. And there's some more great shots. Milton Berle and, wow, Bob Hope, the Queen, Howard Cosell.
That shot of Dean and Frank and Milton Berle, I've often wondered, what the heck was I saying? Because they're all glued to me, like they can't wait to react and
right.
what I was saying.
Right.
But it's a great picture, gee.
Yeah. And meeting the Queen as well, Queen Elizabeth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then that's Lou Gossett in the other shot.
Yeah.
And how it counts Sal. Rich, do you ever wonder if you could talk like me? 24 hours a day, there's no degree to greatness you could not achieve in show business.
He was his best PR department, right?
Yeah.
Why? Yeah, the Sunday night or Monday night football, everything that he did, he was just amazing. And then somebody else too, George Burns, your one and only George Burns. You were so good and still are as George Burns. There he is.
Sure.
He says hello, but Rich often will morph right into his character. A lot of years with the wonderful George Burns, right?
Yeah, I've got that statue too. Yeah.
Do
I
you
have
with the
that.
cigar and all too? Yeah. Isn't it cool?
Yeah, I've got that.
These
And
things are, yeah.
I have one on Stan Laurel, and I have one on Nixon. But I love the George Burns. George was a real sweetheart and very nice man. I remember a friend of mine from Canada in radio. I was in radio when I lived in Canada. And he came down to the States and he did an interview with George Burns for an hour. And it was a great interview. And then when the interview was over, he played it back to see that it worked. And it was the tape was blank. He didn't have the volume turned up. So he came up to me. I was there, and he said, "Well, we'll just have to do it again." And I went, "What?" "Yeah, we'll do it again." And we did. We did it again. He did the whole hour again.
Wow.
He could have just said, "That's your problem." I can't. A busy day, but he did the interview twice.
He did it twice. Wow. That's he was a class act and a great guy. And again, you've had an opportunity to take him on in so many different ways. I think it's fantastic. Did you ever have somebody that maybe wasn't so excited about the impression, even if the impression was spot on and everybody in the world loved it, but the individual themselves maybe not so hot on it? Was there?
Yeah. Paul Lynde. Paul Lynde hated my impression. As a matter of fact, every time I did Paul Lynde, this was his reaction that you're looking at.
I was going to say, that's why
I did Paul Lynde, that's the way he reacted. He hated it. He used to say to me, "Oh, your brother does it better." And that's interesting because my brother didn't do him at all. But he hated my impression of him. And whenever I would do him on Hollywood Squares, the camera would go to him for a reaction. And he'd say, "Who's he doing? That's disgusting. Get a day job." He just didn't like it. And I don't know why, but for some reason he just checked out every time I did him.
Yeah. Yeah. I know he had some interesting, we did a celebration recently with a lot of great, fabulous guests who knew or were friends with Peter Marshall. And they were talking about sometimes what it was like trying to get Paul Lynde even to get into the square without falling off the chair and just crazy times.
After the dinner break, which he drank, he didn't eat, we did 2 more shows. And they had to struggle to get him up into the square, and they finally did, and they strapped him in, and then they propped him up because his head was falling on the what do you call it, the desk, and he still was funny, even though he was 3 sheets to the wind. He still was funny.
And your impression of him absolutely extraordinary, and everybody loving it over the years. I want to let folks know too that even before going into, impressions and things of that nature, you were looking at going into acting, and you have done, a number of beloved TV shows like Brother Paul on The Flying Nun, right?
Right.
Yes, and you even did episode Who Didn't Do the Love Boat? There you are with Lonnie Anderson, and I think
Isabel.
I think you were also we were on a Mannix too,
I was on a Mannix.
Mannix and
Police,
Hawaii Five
police.
O.
I was on Policewoman, and I played a guy who was a murderer rapist on Policewoman, and my mother was outraged. I will not watch that show. But
Right.
to your mother, it's just an acting part. You know,
Yeah, with
um,
Angie Dickinson.
Angie
Yes,
Dickinson, yeah.
exactly. Right. Yes. Yeah,
And
really incredible.
and then on Hawaii Five O, I played a sort of a James Cagney character, and at the end, I was up on this oil rig and way up, and like the movie he did, and it blew up. But luckily, I wasn't there.
And you had your own TV show for a while too, didn't you?
Yes, yes,
Yes, the Rich Little Show.
yeah, on NBC. Right. It
Exactly.
only lasted a year. I thought it was very unfair because they put other shows opposite the one I did, and I didn't think that was fair.
How dare they put other shows on the other networks at the same time?
That
There's no-
was a low blow.
You have been on so many shows as well as a guest star, as a performer, even working with the one and only Rip Taylor on the Brady Bunch Variety Hour. Now, what was it like, being on that show, but also with Rip Taylor, the two of you that is Hollywood magic right there, folks.
Well, he was a lot like Rickles.
Oh, yeah.
He was not disciplined at all. I mean,
No,
he would do anything for a laugh. And I forget why the heck it looks like I'm swimming in that shot. I don't know. I
they
don't
did
remember
have the
that.
big swimming pool, right?
Huh?
They had that huge swimming pool in the front.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know what that's from. I don't know what I was doing and what
The
he's.
Brady Bunch Variety Hour. Yeah.
Yeah,
With the
I
Brady
guess I don't know.
Florence Henderson and Robert Reed and
Yeah,
all
yeah,
the Brady kids as well. That
yeah.
was something. You also had Rich Little's Christmas Carol in 1978. That
Right.
was quite special too, huh?
And there's me doing W.C. Fields as Scrooge.
Yes.
And I won an Emmy doing that show.
Yes, you did. Yes, you
And
did.
it was difficult to do because I was playing all the parts. So I had to really talk to myself. When I was talking to somebody, it was either a double or somebody standing in for me, and they shot it from the back, so you couldn't see that it wasn't me. But it was difficult to do. It took a long time to do that show. When
Oh,
you
yeah.
play all the parts, you're talking to just a stagehand, really. You know.
That's it, right? Exactly. Yeah, one man show. Um, many, many, many appearances on the Tonight Show with Johnny Carson. There's one of them there, and they can still be seen, in re-airs and things of that nature. Uh, I always thought that you did a phenomenal version of him, and I've always enjoyed Johnny Carson over the years as well. I mean, true television host, legend, and so much more. But I guess he wasn't as excited about the impression as everybody else.
Um, no, he liked my impression of him. Something happened though, and I never found out why. I became a no book on the Tonight Show just suddenly, and I always thought maybe Johnny Carson got tired of me, but I ran into him in a restaurant about a year before he passed away, and he was very friendly with me, extremely so. So I couldn't figure out why I ended up a no book on the show until I talked to a lot of people, not a lot, but a few people. They were no book people too. Mel Tormé said I was a no book on Carson. So you never know. You might have said something that really irritated him, or maybe I don't know. I don't know what happened, but when I was on with Johnny Carson, it was terrific because he was at that time he loved the impression. So I'll never really know what happened.
Like you said there were a couple people that were in the no book status, but you saw him years later before his passing, right? And he was
Yes,
very kind and very nice.
very, very. In a restaurant in in Malibu, and he came up to me and he said, I guess you're not doing me anymore." I said, "Sure I am, John, but I'm not on television. That doesn't matter. People will remember you." I don't think so. I'm not on television, so I think that's it. I said, "No, no, no, no. I'll be doing you for a long time." Boy, was that the truth, because here I am 50 years later, still doing Johnny Carson.
That's right. Yes, you are. Matter of fact, in your Vegas show, which of course everybody loves, you do all kinds of different things with interactive clips of known appearances, Judy Garland show, the Hollywood Squares, the Julie Andrews show, the Tonight Show, the Lucy show. And you've
Yeah,
added this aspect of animation technology using your own original artwork depicting friends and colleagues such as Henry Fonda, Katharine Hepburn,
yeah. I did a
George
lot.
Burns,
I,
Sylvester Stallone.
well, I did a lot of artwork over the years. They're portraits, and I've done hundreds of them. Like this guy. Right.
Incredible. Yes. Rich Little is a celebrated sketch artist as well.
Remember him, Tom Jones?
Tom Jones. That's right.
And
She's a lady.
how about this guy? Hey, you can handle the truth.
These are brilliant. These are incredible.
And Tony Bennett, Rich, you do me so well. You really do, and I wish I could do you.
He left his heart in San
No,
Francisco.
this was it's easy to do because there's no hair. I did that in about an hour, and this was the first
God.
one I ever did. That's the
Sean Connery.
first sketch I ever did. Bogey.
It's
Yeah,
extraordinary.
done a lot of sketching.
And
Maybe 200, 200 or 300 sketches.
are any of these in galleries, museums, Smithsonian, anywhere?
Well, if you buy my book, a lot of the of every people that I imitate are their picture is in the book. This is the book of my book.
And that's the updated version, right?
Yeah, but you'll see you'll see. I'm trying to think. You'll see, people like Jimmy Stewart,
Yeah.
and a lot of people that I imitate are in this book. So there's probably about 30 or 40 pictures that I've drawn of. There's Jack Benny. Well, Jack was a very interesting guy. I can remember we were in a restaurant one day, and the waitress said, "What would you like, Mr. Benny?" "Well, I'd like a poached egg, but I don't want a big poached egg. I want a little yolk." "Okay." And the waitress said, "You want a joke?" He said, "No, no, no. I want a little yolk. I don't want a big yolk. So could you get me a little egg?" And the waitress said, "Well, where would I get a little egg from?" And he said, "From a little chicken." What do you think? But he had to have an egg that was small for some reason. I think she gave him a regular egg, and he probably didn't notice it. But I don't know why he asked for a tiny little egg, but it was important to him.
Exactly right.
He eat that egg, and he said, "No, I'm going to take it home. I'll put it in my pocket."
And as I said, performing at the White
Put a
House,
poached egg in your pocket. Yeah,
poached egg in the
that's like
performing.
yeah, once in a while, you have jackets that you wear on different shows. And the other day, I was going through some of my old clothes up in the attic, and there was a chocolate bar in the jacket, and I reached in, and it was pretty gooey.
Question is, what did you do with it after? Did you eat it, or did you?
No, it would have been 30 years old in the pocket.
See, you could have sold that on eBay and made a fortune. Rich little melted chocolate bar.
Rich melted chocolate bar.
Working with so many people in Las Vegas, Carol Channing, Robert Goulet, Frank Sinatra, and the rest of the good old Rat Pack, the beloved Sammy Davis Jr., such a great entertainer. So many great memories over the years in Vegas, huh?
Yes, a lot of great memories. Matter of fact, that's the most enjoyable thing about my career is working with not only people that I imitate, but the big stars. And sometimes the bigger the star was, the nicest they were. I've only nice things to say about most of the people that I imitated. I don't think anybody was really upset except Paul Lynde. He was the only one I could think of.
Paul Lynde, yeah.
My impression, but everybody else seemed to, so.
Absolutely. The book, congratulations on the book. As I mentioned, the book is an updated version of the book as well. And I encourage folks to get it. It is absolutely spectacular. Rich little people I've known and been. You can get it at Amazon and wherever books are sold. It's really extraordinary. You have this introduction as Little Richard on Ed Sullivan as well. And we're on Ed Sullivan so many times. What was it like? He was an interesting host, interesting person, Ed Sullivan, wasn't he?
Oh, yeah. Ed Sullivan was terrific because he was sort of strange and did a lot of things that were kind of crazy. One time he introduced me on the show as Little Richard. And I came out and I didn't know what to do. And so I just went into my routine. But he said, Little Richard, is that your first name or your second name? What? Imagine being introduced on the Ed Sullivan show as Little Richard.
Did he expect you to break out into song? And
oh, I came out like a deer in the headlights. I didn't know what to do after being introduced as Little Richard.
Unbelievable.
I went my impressions, but I'm sure people were wondering, well, who the heck is this guy?
Who is this guy, Little Richard? Exactly. You also made several film appearances in the Pink Panther, looping for Peter Sellers as well, and the voice. Yeah, right. David Niven, as you said too.
Trail of the Pink Panther and Curse of the Pink Panther.
The voice of Nixon in Futurama.
Because Peter Sellers had passed away, and I did a couple of lines of his that they needed, and then I did David Niven's voice for the Curse of the Pink Panther and one other. So that I've done a lot of dubbing over the years for stars that are either had laryngitis or they passed away. I did Tony Curtis for a movie that he walked out of. And I remember the producer phoned me up and said, could you do a couple of lines as Tony Curtis? We need a couple of lines. I said, why don't you get Tony Curtis? I'm sure he'll do it. He said, because we owe him a lot of money. And I said, oh. And I said, well, I can't. I don't know that I can do that. So I said, I'll get back to you. And then I phoned up Tony and I said, these guys, they're from Spain. They want me to do a couple of lines that they need for this movie that you walked out of. And he said, well, how much are they gonna pay you? They said they're giving me $500. And he said, good, send half of it to me.
He has broken the record for the longest running one-man show in Las Vegas with 8+ years, an original 12-week contract at the former Tropicana's Laugh Factory. Rich Little has revamped that show, and starting actually next week at the time of this broadcast, will be appearing at the famous Las Vegas Horseshoe.
Right.
Looking forward to that. And is there anything new you're sprinkling in or anything exciting in addition to all the incredible things you already do?
I'm going to do Camelot as Richard Burton. And I've been working on that because the words are tricky. And I've got me as an old man singing Camelot with Julie Andrews. And then I'll show that. And then all of a sudden I'll do it. I'll finish the song off and I will do it on stage. So you'll see half of it as me as this old man, and then I'll finish the song as just Rich Little.
That's incredible.
That's going to be new.
You've been doing this for decades, and as I said, you have entertained us. You've graced us with your wit, your wisdom, your incredible talent, your wonderful compassion and understanding of humanity. You also have given back greatly to causes and charities that you believe in. And I know proceeds of your book also do that as well. Tell us about why that's so important to you. You're an incredible philanthropist, Rich Little.
Well, I've raised a lot of money for the troops, the wounded warriors. When I was performing at the a long time ago, and I gave all the money that I made on my merchandise to the wounded warriors, and that was very rewarding for me, because I'm a big fan of anybody in the military, and I never was in the military, but I have great respect for the people that are, and I was delighted to have made thousands of dollars for the wounded warriors at one point.
Absolutely, and again, that's just a little testament to the extraordinary man that you are, Rich Little. A delight to chat with you, as I could tell you, we could chat for hours. I have so many wonderful stories and questions. However, we will keep the porch light on for you. You are welcome back anytime. Before we go, are those continued blessings and joys in your life, Rich, that keep you doing what you're doing? You could easily, you've earned it, you've been rewarded, awarded, accolade, everything you could possibly get from the industry, beloved by millions around the world. You continue to make us smile at times when we really need it the most. You could easily be in a hammock with a banana colada and your feet in the sand saying, I did my bit. I'm good. But you're still out there making us smile. Where does that come from? Where does that drive and those blessings come from for you, Rich?
Well, I'm getting on. I mean, I don't know how many years I've got left, but once you get out on stage, you get adrenaline, and sometimes I don't feel that great, and my balance isn't that good. And once I get out there and hear the reaction from the crowd, I usually can do the show pretty well. But I'm not as good, I don't think, as I used to be. Some of the impressions are a little thin, but once I hear the reaction from the audience, that helps a lot, you know. So I'm very privileged to still have my health and still want, and people still want me to perform. So as long as they do, I'll be out there.
Absolutely. And you are, and you pack it in. And I tell you, sell out. Anybody gets a chance to get a ticket to go to see Rich Little, do it, do it. And you will be glowingly pleased. You're going to be laughing, you're going to be remembering, and you're going to have some incredible moments that you're going to share because he really is an extraordinary gift to all of us. He even recently had that award-winning, critically acclaimed off-Broadway appearance as Richard Nixon
Yeah,
in New York, which we actually got to see, and I saw you
really.
do it. And you were packing the houses, and you were unbelievable, Rich.
Yeah,
Truly,
that was a time of COVID, and that's
yes,
why it didn't do well. But it was a pleasure to do that. I
it
thought it was
was.
a great show, really well written, and
Yes,
to do Nixon every night, I I thought I can't do this too much longer because I'm
right,
turning into Nixon.
right. Boom, all the way back from the beginning. There is his wonderful book,
But thank
folks.
you for all the kind words, Jim. I appreciate it.
The pleasure is mine. And for you, I know you're very busy. To take this time with us and our viewers is truly an honor. You are truly, again, I've said it, one of the greats in our industry, and you've touched our lives in so many deep ways, and generations of people, and people still discovering you through your past work is extraordinary. Thank you so much for stopping by the Jim Masters Show and spending this time with us. We'll remember this deeply and fondly, and you're welcome back anytime. And I hope you enjoyed the time with me, Rich
Yes.
Little, as I have with you.
And thank you, Jim, and thank you for the kind words. I appreciate it.
The pleasure is all mine. You be well. Continued blessings to you and the family. And I wish you nothing but all the joys that life can continue to bring, my friend. You take care. And thanks for being with us on the show.
Thanks.
You're welcome. The one and only Rich Little here on the Jim Masters Show, Celebrity Talk Show series. Again, going back in time, talking about so many great moments on television and in film and on stage over the years, making us laugh, making us think, making us cheer, spending time with the presidents as well. There you go. There, of course, all the time with the Laugh Factory. He is truly an icon. And I know that word is bantied around a lot, but he is television, film, stage, mastering it all with wit and wisdom and comedy. I'm talking about Rich Little. And I've always admired him. We've always had him on our televisions in our house. We've always followed everything he's ever done. And if you have not had a chance to see him in person, go get tickets, get to Vegas. Even if you're not even near Vegas, get to Vegas and go see him. You will be pleasantly enjoying every moment. Rich Little, the icon, right here on the Jim Masters Show. And again, you can find him, of course, online, on social media, and everywhere else. And don't forget to get that book. If you love books that really have deep dives, and in this case, he shares so much about himself and his experiences, but also, and there's the book there, those incredible sketches like the ones that he so kindly showed us during this show, just a few of the many. He's a brilliant sketch artist, if you didn't know. Absolutely. Go run now to get the book. This is really something special. He is something special. Thank you for joining us, everybody, on the Jim Masters Show as we salute the one and only Rich Little here on the Jim Masters Show, Celebrity Talk Show series. We love having you here. Drop a comment, like, subscribe, Celebrate Rich Little and us here at the Jim Masters Show. And don't forget to love one another, take care of one another, and don't forget to do the very same for yourself. And if you enjoyed this episode, give it a thumbs up, drop a comment below. What are some of your favorite Rich Little memories? We would love to hear from you. And also subscribe to the YouTube channel, Jim Masters TV, where everything happens right here for you on the Jim Masters Show. Thanks, everybody. I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly did. Be well and take care. Join us on the next episode of the Jim Masters Show. Thanks for joining us.